This week's video is a little bit different and a whole lot special. Hey guys, welcome back to Blackmagic Craft. I am really happy to be back with you this week after having to cancel last week's episode due to a family emergency. And that situation bled into my production time for this week's video as well, so I was unable to craft anything for it. But I decided to do something kind of different. I reached out to a whole bunch of my friends and fellow content creators and asked them to give me a clip sharing one simple hobby tip to make your hobby life a little bit easier. And a whole bunch of them were able to accommodate and get back to me and send something in. Not everyone could. It was really short notice, so no hard feelings to those of you who couldn't make it happen. Yeah, I guess this is gonna be some sort of hobby channel mega show. So without further ado, let's get to our first clip.
What up, Blackmagic Crafters? I want to show you guys two tricks that you can do with thin plastic cement. A lot of times when I'm scraping off mold lines, I get a lot of plastic shavings in areas that are difficult to deal with. Depending on the amount, a really easy solution to get rid of them all is to hit it with a little bit of thin plastic cement. This will melt down the shavings to almost nothing. Another fun trick is to help you deal with gaps in plastic models. If the part is right, I often clamp my models together with a small spring clamp. This causes a little bead of plastic to form at the seam. Sand this back when it's dry and you have a perfectly flush connection. But what if there's still a gap there, like here where I slashed a hole in the model while removing it from the sprue? Toss a few chunks of sprue inside a bottle of old plastic cement and then wait. It'll melt the plastic and turn it into a thicker substance. The ratio of cement to plastic sprue is undetermined. Just add a little by little until the consistency is right. This combination is often called sprue goo and can be used to fill the gaps on plastic models. You apply a little goo, and then if needed, you can smooth it out with some thin plastic cement. Thanks for letting me invade your channel, Jeremy. Now on to the next tip.
Moin moin and a warm welcome from Hamburg, Germany. Usually, you know my craft videos only in German. But Jeremy asked me if I could contribute my favorite crafting tip for this video in English. Of course, Jeremy, with pleasure. The Tabletop Workshop has been on YouTube for more than 5 years, and there's one important thing I've noticed ever since. So my number one tip to you is leave your comfort zone from time to time and try something new. No matter if it's a new tool, a new material, new colors, or a completely new crafting technique. Just take a new path from time to time to automatically develop new skills and improve yourself. Some great painted miniatures simply require new approaches. Primer, base colors, wash and dry brushing are great. But sometimes glazes or oil paints give a model that extra something. Terrain can be created with a base color and dry brushing without a question. But using washes, for example, that are applied wet on the base color, it looks much more interesting, doesn't it? It's best to try out everything new in small steps to gain experience. If you then like the new material or technique, start bigger projects. Always step by step, so as not to overwhelm yourself. Therefore, just try something new. Just grab a tutorial now that you thought it was too difficult or complex. And with all this in mind, have fun painting, crafting and discovering new skills.
Hey Blackmagic Craftians, something Jeremy mentioned that might be of value to you guys is how I approach projects. I think it would be fairly true objectively to say that I get stuff done. So my tip would be to think both macro and micro at the same time. Big and small. Big projects are really important because they stretch yourself. The things you learn along the way of really biting off more than you can chew and really just taking your time to chew through it until it's done can be monumental. So big projects are really important. At the same time, it can be too much sometimes and really hard to finish, which is why it's really important to break down your big projects or your big goals or creative ideas into micro sections. If I am making an animation, which I did a couple of years ago, I made something called the Tale Teller, which took me 10 months to do. And if I were looking at how much I had to finish as a whole, I would have given up. But because I was so focused on one scene at a time, every day I had one scene to do. I was doing one shot. That's it. That's all I was focused on. Break it down into lots of little projects that you can look at, finishing each part and feel proud of, and give yourself that gratification along the way to keep you moving. And then on the micro end, to avoid yourself yourself burning out on the big projects, sometimes it's good to step away and do something micro that feeds your creativity. It might be a hobby on the side, it might be music, it might be some other small project or a commission that builds you back up so that you can empty your creativity back into the big thing you're working on. So that's the main thing. Also scheduling. At my laziest as a young adult, when I wanted to get to work on projects but struggled to wake up in the morning, I would have a bath at 8 a.m. and I would wake up at 9 a.m. in a cold bath, fully awake and ready to get to work. So sometimes it requires a little bit of discipline in just getting stuff done. That's some of the stuff that I have to offer. Thanks for inviting me to be a part of this, Jeremy, and my love to you, your family, and your wonderful audience. See you guys.
Proper nutrition is so important. Personally, I like eggs. There are lots of great ways to eat eggs. You can eat boiled eggs, fried eggs.
Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about chopping onions. It might seem like a simple technique, but there is a way to chop onions so you get the most amount of flavor. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I bet you he meant a crafting tip, not, oh. This crafting tip is all about priming found objects. In my crafting, I work with a lot of old toys. The easiest way to figure out how to prime a toy is the rigidity. For example, this McDonald's toy is made out of very stiff plastic, and thus a spray primer will probably work pretty well on it. And of course, you don't have to use Army Painter on something like this, you can just buy the cheapest all-surface primer you can find. Some plastics will require you to sand down the material a little bit before you can get good adhesion with a spray primer, but other pieces like this castle were spray primed without any special preparation at all. Sometimes it's just easy. In some cases, you're going to want to utilize a more rubbery toy. In these cases, you're probably going to make use of acrylic polyurethane primer. Vallejo Surface Primer is my favorite brand. It was originally made for airbrushing, but it's thick enough to be applied with a paintbrush. Badger also makes a line of polyurethane primer, but it's much thinner than the Vallejo. If you have plastic that's very glossy and difficult to prime, you might want to try out Vallejo Mecha Primer. It was specifically designed to adhere to difficult surfaces, and a lot of people that like to paint Transformer toys really like this stuff. And of course, for me personally, there's some projects where I don't bother priming the toys at all. When considering these translucent rats, for example, all I did was wash them in very thin coats of paint, and they're still that color years later. So the next time you find an old toy, I hope you think to yourself, hey, that could be the centerpiece for my next crafting project.
Eggs over easy, eggs over hard.
One of the things I wanted to share is pushing your boundaries and failing and being okay with that. I know Jeremy did an awesome video already on failure, and how important that actually is to the hobby. How you won't get ahead unless you push yourself. So take a look at this wizard tower. I made this wizard tower here. I'm really proud of it. I had to redo this resin base about three times, and now it's a whopping pounds. Look at that thing. That's ridiculous. But you can see all the layers of resin, and that's basically me just covering up my mistakes. I made this big massive wave in the front there, and actually that didn't work out quite as well off the bat as I wanted to. I had to take the angle grinder to that thing and hack the waves out, and I think that's a big key thing to take away that I've taken away is not being afraid to mess up and push your boundaries. So you can be really comfortable with the technique. You got that technique down, but you're just kind of afraid to push it to that next level, to try something a little more complex maybe, or just different. And you're afraid if you do change what you normally do, you're just gonna wreck whatever it is you're working on, which sucks. But, honestly, I think that's an important thing to do. If you want to push ourselves and we want to grow, we got to just take that chance. Try this thing that has the chance of wrecking whatever it is that you do, but it also has a chance of pushing you up to that next level. So there you go. So thanks again, Jeremy, for having me on here.
Eggs over medium. You can have poached eggs.
If you know the DM's craft, you know that my favorite tool is my glue gun. I just love my glue gun. I use it for tons of projects, but I do have a secret material that I use a lot. It's a really versatile material that you can use for a lot of things. And let's go to my table and I'll show you some examples of kind of this secret material well, some sort of semi-secret material that sneaks into my videos sometimes, and I find it really helpful to have in your arsenal of crafting.
Now here's the material I'm talking about. It's modeling paste, and this is an acrylic medium you can use to give texture to acrylic paintings. You can mix acrylic paint with it and everything. It takes that really well. But what's great about it is I find that I can use it to get really fine textures on other things that aren't great to do with the glue gun. So here's an example of what you can do with this stuff. I want to transform this monster into kind of a hybrid with a shaggy coat. You can see it's just a toy where it has, you know, the lines where the legs connect and the, you know, the head and all that stuff. So I'm going to cover all that up with the modeling paste and then drag a toothpick through it, and that will give me a nice furry coat. And look how good and detailed that is. That'd be really hard to do with a glue gun. Another bonus to this is it dries hard, but it's also a little bit flexible, so it won't easily break or crack like some other materials. Another great use for this material is kind of doing sculpting where you don't need to sculpt. So instead of sculpting on my purple worm and having all these folds of skin, I use the modeling paste and like I said, ran the toothpick through it and got all those kind of folds in the skin without actually having to model them into the surface.
You could eat an omelet or a quiche.
Hello, my name is Craftman Jeremy with Black Magic Craft.
Better not be black magic. You said magic.
It ain't real black magic though.
All right.
Jeremy asked me, can you share with my people one of your favorite tricks? Jeremy, my uncle, anyway, on my cousin's side of the family. This little trick right here is something that you can do with clay. Alright, so I guess that's just what I needed. So all it is to it is just take you a little popsicle stick. You can take you a Dremel tool with a drum attachment coming up, make you that shape right there. And what can you do with this? You know. You do things like this right there. If you're trying to get you a feathers effect on it, this one might be ideal for that. See that line that you get on there? That's just based on the way the thing is made. But let me show y'all my favorite ones of these. Sometimes the simpler the better thing, you know. So let me show you the simple thing right now. All that is just a popsicle stick that I carved it out. And then sanded it, you know. Easy to do. Everywhere where they want to be, you come right in the middle of it like that right there. And just do that with it. And so, as with any tool, the more that you use, the more advanced that you will get with it, you know. I thought I would share that with y'all. How to make scales, how to make feathers. This one right there good for feathers. This one right there good for scales, alright. I'd like to say thank you to Uncle Jeremy for letting me be part of this right here, Black Magic Crafts.
You said magic.
This your friend, a craftsman, signing out saying you can use a popsicle stick right there. I don't really know what is that, but, you know, just to show you the possibilities of this right there. Something like that right there. All right, last one. Now thing getting a little bit out of hand, you know. Craftman, what in the world you doing, baby? All right.
Or you could have egg drop soup.
I'm Emil from Squidmar Miniatures, and today I'm bringing you a few hot tips that I don't think Jeremy actually covered on this channel. As a miniature painter and diorama builder, I often use a lot of natural materials, and Jeremy uses XPS foam and things like that to build his stuff. I tend to go to the naturals like roots and coconut fiber and dirt and sand. And now that it's spring and you're out in the woods walking, or maybe you're just doing gardening work, look for fallen trees or roots of bushes that you removed from your garden. And these roots can be perfect for many different things on your diorama builds or your table builds or whatever you're gonna use it for. I used roots and placed them like trees or climbing vines on different buildings that I built or printed. I used them as trees on diorama builds or just as cool roots on the ground if they're small enough. Just make sure to let them dry and clean them up before you use them. Another hot tip is one of my absolute favorite basing materials, and that is coconut fiber. You buy these in bigger, larger dried bricks on dollar stores or IKEA. Here in Sweden we have them actually. And when you grind them down to smaller pieces, you can get these slightly larger bits that you can use as ground floor or ground covering for forest terrain, or these super tiny, super fine ones that can work as sand. It looks really good, really natural. You get these fine coconut hairs that also look as roots or different grass strands that's just sticking out from the ground. And as a final tip for all of those of you who live in a place where you have birches in the fall, these different seed pods that hangs on the tree dry up, and if you go and pick them up from the tree, you can pick these like larger bits and they fall apart instantly, and all of these small pieces that you get look pretty much exactly like a dried leaf. So if you're doing something in the woods, like a D&D table that has wood parts, or maybe it's a cave entrance and you want to have dead leaves that have blown in on the ground of the cave, these small birch seeds or whatever they are amazing as a sort of natural replacement for leaves.
What about an egg sandwich?
If you're going through writer's block, or in our case, crafter's block, I got a tip for you. If you're feeling mindless, then what you need is mindless work. I find it helps me get my muse back when I prep material that we use a lot in our hobby. This includes material like planks, bricks, and flock. The busy work in a sense. This tip will not only help you get your muse back, but it will help you work uninterrupted once you get it back.
Eggs Benedict. Huevos rancheros. Scrambled eggs.
Hey, it's Lucas from Bardscraft. My tip to you is get out there. Out there in the woods, or even in the park. There are essentially lots of free crafting materials laying around waiting for you to pick up. Use stones and pebbles as, well, stones and pebbles. They look quite good when painted up. Pick up dead branches and twigs to make pretty good looking miniature trees. And last but not least, bark. Bark is among the best materials you can find to make quick and easy cliffs. Okay, next.
Deviled eggs.
Hey everybody, Jim the Tabletop Engineer here. Let me show you how to make a mini sci-fi display diorama in under 1 hour, complete with LED lighting effect. I started off by getting a small frame and removing the glass and backing. I created a template that you can find in the description below. I traced that on a chipboard, cut it out, scored the edges, and folded it up. This makes like a little hollow box that will fit in the back of the picture frame. Tape up the edges and go find your bits box. I just ended up taking a bunch of junk bits from my junk bin. Some of these are sprue pieces. I just cut them, glue them in there. They look very sci-fi-ish. Make sure to get the edges too, that adds to the effect, and then add some pipes and stuff like that. I added a little panel or a doorway just for a little extra detail. Paint it up in a light gray or something that will make your mini really pop out. Next, I made a little machine, almost like a computer. It'll have a screen on it that an LED will fit inside. Go ahead and glue the machine closed. I cut it with some angled pieces to kind of give the screen an angled look. Next, I went back into my bits box and I glued some metal electronics pieces just for extra detail. I had a little plastic bulb that I filled with water and green food coloring about halfway, and I used plastic glue to secure it to one of the sprue pieces. Just a little extra visual effect. I cut a hole in the bottom of the thing where the machine would go over. This is where the LED will be inserted. Painted the machine white. Went back and painted some of the wall bits silver. I cut a piece of opaque plastic from a lid that will sort of dull the brightness of the LED inside. Glue it over the machine, put a little cover over it, and then added some bits and pieces and painted up the machine. Glued the machine over the hole. Then I added a little hinge with a piece of painter's tape on one side and Velcro on the other to secure it. This will hold the little LED bulb inside so it doesn't fall out. And here you go, a little sci-fi diorama with a lighting effect. You could leave the machine out and you'd have room for 2 or even 3 minis in this thing.
Pickled eggs.
Shoot your own videos, man. One of the most important things you should realize about Blackmagic Craft is that this is not a channel about how to make things or what to make. This is about why you should be making them. And this is the thing that most people miss. Jeremy tells a good story about why he's doing the things that he's doing. And I want to impart this to you so that you can understand that if you are one of the people who likes to watch but doesn't actually create anything, you don't have to make the things that are being shown on these videos. You don't have to do the things that Jeremy is doing. What's extremely important is, one, that you start creating, and 2, that you come up with something that you want, that you feel passionate about, because it has a very important effect on you. Having a purpose, something to do, something to create, is very good for your mental health. It's very good for family relationships if you build things together. It's very good for building friendships. It's very good for all these extra benefits that are never really mentioned. We in the Tabletop Crafters Guild get tons and tons of email from people about how we've helped them have a better relationship with their kids. You know, people and their spouses are getting along better because they're crafting together. We've saved people's lives, quite literally. So these are the things that aren't really ever spoken on these videos, but I feel it's very important for you as the viewer to recognize if you're someone and you're struggling and you're watching these videos passively, active is what is important. These videos are designed to show you how easy it is to make something, how you can, with simple materials, go forth and craft. Pick up a piece of putty and a pencil and just start sculpting something. The process of making a thing is better than the thing that you end up making. It doesn't matter if you don't finish the project. It's the actual process of making a thing. Once you complete a project, that object is filled with all the pride and all the feelings of the process that you went through, the joy of actually making that thing. And that's what I feel comes across very well in this channel. And that's what I, as a creator, feel is the most important thing that should be imparted to you, the viewer. And also that you should watch the DMG info. Make your own
eggs in a basket.
Hello, it's Trent here from Miscast. Let me tell you about our hobby's best kept secret, EVA foam. I use 2 types, the stuff that comes in the form of play mats, but more often recently, this stuff. Kids Craft Foam. All the wood on this building and all the roof shingles are EVA foam. Why? Because EVA foam is the perfect material for the lazy crafter, i.e. me. You can cut it with scissors, and if you cut something too short, you can stretch it to fit, and it's flexible for doing stuff like this and this. It also retains texture pretty well, and it's also virtually indestructible. No other material has made me more excited to craft because using it is so easy and forgiving, and you don't need special tools to use it, so yeah. I hope you give it a go. Cheers.
There are so many great ways to eat eggs.
Hey, Guy from Midwinter Minis here. And when you're just starting out in the hobby, or even if you've been doing it for ages, choosing a colour scheme and sticking to it can be a bit daunting. There are so many brands, thousands of paints. Which ones are right for you and your project? Let's take a step back and look at some inspiration from the past. This is Anders Zorn, one of Sweden's finest artists. I wish I could show you more of his paintings, but his favourite subject was full-figured nudes, and I don't want to put Blackmagic Craft in YouTube's naughty books. Zorn's work is amazing, but the thing I find personally mind-blowing is that most of the time he just used 4 paints. Specifically, ivory black, titanium white, yellow ochre, and vermilion. By mixing and blending these different paints, you can make a huge range of colours while keeping things aesthetically unified. Bonus art nerd fact, you want to know why ivory black is called ivory black when ivory is kind of paley, whitey, creamy coloured? It's because they used to burn ivory in bones to make the pigment. Grim. Anyway, how does all of this relate to miniatures and modelling? Well, check this out. Here's a Chaos Cultist from Warhammer 40,000 that I painted up entirely using the Zorn 4-colour palette. As you can see, it's a really strong scheme, really in keeping with the grimdark vibe of the universe, sort of Blanchitsu vibe but 100 years earlier. By keeping things simple and mixing your own palette of colours, you can level up your hobby skills, understand colours a bit better, and save money while you're at it. I hope you found this quick tip useful and that it's given you a bit of courage to try out something new. Well, old. You know what I mean.
Proper nutrition is so important. That's why eggs are great. Oh, you wanted hobby tips. I see. Okay, check this out. Once you're done eating your eggs, you can use the cartons to store minis. If these can keep eggs safe, they can keep minis safe. There's enough room in each of those wells for a 25mm base, and there's still plenty of space for big weapons and stuff like that. If you're worried about these rattling around or whatever, all you need to do is add a little blue tack. Just like that. There we go. Safe and secure. These minis are as comfy as a dozen tasty little eggs.
Well, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing so many awesome creators in one place, and I hope you got a whole bunch of useful tips and tricks from it. If you liked this video, hit the like button. Let us all know in the comments section below. Of course, please go check out all these guys' channels. I will put links to all of their channels in the video description. So if there's anybody that you don't know and you aren't already watching, well, you can remedy that. Go click on it and check out their videos. This is also the time when I would normally plug my Patreon and Essential Equipment page, but I want to say that all of these content creators put in an incredible amount of time and effort into their channels, and they all have their own various Patreons and websites and groups and different things, and I highly encourage you to go check those out and give these guys some support for the amazing work they do. Of course, I need to say thank you to all of them for helping me out, and I can't leave this video without giving my own tip. And the tip I'd like to share is the one illustrated by this whole video, and that is the power of help from your peers and your community. If you're struggling with something, be it something in your life or something in your hobby, reach out to those around you for help. Friends, family, online communities, whoever it may be. If you're having a hard time with something you're building, reach out to the appropriate hobby community and don't be afraid to lean on others for help. That's what makes these communities we have so friggin' awesome, is that everybody is willing to help. That's it for this week, guys. I will see you again next week with a normal video. I'm gonna build something. I'm ready. I'm gonna start building tomorrow. Cheers, guys.